Look, the Cavs were down like by 20 points most of this game, and then Darius Garland just turned into LeBron in the fourth quarter of this game. And boy, did he need it. Look, everybody was on his ass all week, blaming him for the losses, talking about some, I even came on here, was like, man, Donovan needs to be the alpha. We need to emphasize him more and make it clear. And I still do think that. But Darius made a compelling argument tonight. He did. And a lot of what the issues were with Darius was that people thought he was folding in crunch time. And that's not who I remember Darius to be last year. And boy, did he show up. Now, he didn't show up all the way. They didn't win the game. But I got to give him credit for what he did. Fourth quarter, you can't tell me that, how many points did he have in the fourth quarter? Cavs had 40 points. I think he had like 25 of the 40 in the fourth. Something crazy like that. Real quick, show of hands. Because I know some of y'all, for some of y'all that watch this channel, I want to know. What was the last full Cavs regular season that you really got invested in? Serious question. You know what I mean? I'm asking that because I have seen how people reacted after the Cavs have dropped 4 games. And it's very football-like, where in football, if you lose 4 games in a row, season's over almost all the time, right? So, the Browns are lived that life pretty much the whole month of October, right? Where they didn't win a single game except for the last one against the Bengals. Thank goodness for Cincinnati. And that's why I'm asking, because I've seen the reactions from some of you on here and maybe from some of y'all on Twitter. It seems very football-like, and maybe some of y'all just are like that, which I don't know how y'all do baseball. But it seemed like some pretty interesting reactions I've seen over this Cavs losing streak. And look, today was a loss. They lost. They dropped to 8-5 against the Timberwolves. Sure. But I think some really positive things happened today for the Cavs, specifically for Darius Garland, which I'm going to focus on. But yeah, I just wanted to ask that question first because I've been seeing how people have been reacting. It's been very interesting to see these reactions. But nonetheless, man, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about the Cavs. Let's talk about where they're at and where they aren't. They started off, if you would have told me that the Cavs would be in the middle of November at 8-5, I'd be fine with that. But again, I say this all the time with football. It happens with basketball too. The ride is more important than where you go. Well, the ride is more important than what the expectation is, right? Because the way the Cavs got to 8-5, it's not concerning, but there are things in there that if you want to make a thing, you could certainly make a thing, right? They got most of the wins when Darius Garland was hurt. Darius Garland comes back, and that's where most of your losses are with Darius Garland. And you could blame it on Darius Garland. Now, I think Darius Garland put together a performance today that kind of shut all that up because that was brewing underneath the surface. But you can see how certain narratives get formed. And before I get to Darius, I want to point out another thing. Isaac Okoro today. Again, Cavs didn't win, so it could have been better. Played 29 minutes, 3 of 4 from the field. 1 of 2, he made a 3-pointer. Oh my goodness, finally. And 1 of 2 from free throw. And what he had, 8 points, 3 rebounds. Now he's a former 15th overall pick, a 5 overall pick, but he was plus 15 today in his plus minus. He played really good defense today. Really good defense. And this continues a theme where I'm like, Isaac's better when you give him a bunch of minutes, but he's so bad offensively that you can't trust him to give him all those minutes. I think he really needs, the more he does stuff like this when he gets extended minutes is the more I think you really need to send him down to Cleveland Charge and let him figure out what this next stage of his career is going to be, right? Because for a dude like Isaac, for him, the window for him to become a 20-point per night scorer and for teams to give him that opportunity is over with. I need him to understand that. I need the Cavs to understand that. They are no longer in the window to just see what happens with him. He is in his third year. And if he's going to be a star, he would have been a star by now. And I know people are like, hey, that's rough. He's only in his third. But that's just how it works, man. Like the window for him to develop a jumper and to become a 20 per night scorer, like some people wanted him to be, that's over with. He needs to now figure out what his role is going to be in the NBA. Because it's not going to be as a focal point of the offense, obviously. His role, most likely, ideally, is 3 and D. But if he can't get the 3 and the D, then he's going to have to figure out a different role. Or he's going to have to figure out how to play his role, because I think he envisioned himself as a 3 and D starter. He's not that. Right now, he's not. So he has to figure out how to be effective off the bench. And that's a different skill. Just because a guy can't start doesn't mean that they can't come off the bench. Coming off the bench is a different skill, and we're seeing Isaac struggle with that. He's struggling coming off the bench because it just takes a different mindset. So he is somebody that needs to figure out what's his new role going to be. Who is Isaac Okoro? Not the 5th overall pick in the draft, but key player off the bench. Who is that? Because right now, I think he's still trying to figure out who Isaac Okoro 5th pick in the draft is. That's over with. It don't matter where he got drafted no more. Now he's Isaac Okoro, key bench role player. Isaac Okoro, hopefully 6th or 8th man in the playoff rotation. That's who Isaac is. And he needs to figure out what kind of player he's going to be in those roles. Because when he starts, he plays decently. But when he doesn't start, that's where the problems start. Can't have that. Caris LeVert, 13 points. I mean, nobody played well outside of Darius Garland, I think. Yeah, everybody was like negative and it's plus minus heavy. Look, the Cavs were down like by 20 points most of this game, and then Darius Garland turned into LeBron in the fourth quarter of this game. And boy, did he need it. Look, everybody was on his ass all week, blaming him for the losses, talking about some, I even came on here, was like, man, Donovan needs to be the alpha. We need to emphasize him more and make it clear. And I still do think that. But Darius made a compelling argument tonight. He did. And a lot of what the issues were with Darius was that people thought he was folding in crunch time. And that's not who I remember Darius to be last year. And boy, did he show up. Now, he didn't show up all the way. They didn't win the game. But I got to give him credit for what he did. Fourth quarter, you can't tell me that how many points did he have in the fourth quarter? Cavs had 40 points. I think he had like 25 of the 40 in the fourth. Something crazy like that. At least 30. I think he had 30 of the 40 in the fourth. He went LeBron. He went full LeBron or Kyrie or whatever you want to call it. And I think that was so good for Darius because, man, he had been struggling. The 3-point shot especially had not been dropping like it used to. I think he made 10 of them. He made 10 threes. I think that ties the Cavs record. I don't know. Did Kyrie get 10 or 11? Somebody tell me in chat. But 10 threes, 51 points on decent efficiency. And again, he needed this, right? People were on him. I know it looked like when you were watching the games that he was in his own head, frustrated with his own play. He needed this. He needed a good game just to get out of his own head. Because, man, you start playing that bad for that long, it gets into your head, and then, it could take you a while to recover from that mentally. He really needed this game to get out of that. Hopefully, now that he's out of that, if Donovan could come back on Wednesday versus the Milwaukee Bucks, not going to be easy in Milwaukee. It's doable, but it's not easy. Then, you got a shot, right? The Cavs are also out Dean Wade and Jared Allen, so they didn't have most of their size versus a team that has, 2 centers in Karl Towns and Rudy Gobert, and Karl Towns got whatever he wanted today, 15 plus in the plus minus, 29 points. How many threes did he get? He only went 3 from 6. He shot 50% from 3. 11 to 16 from the field. The man had a night. Karl Towns had a night. And D. Russ had a night. 4 or 5 from 3. Plus 19 is plus minus 30 points. And then Rudy Gobert had 15 to add in there with 13 rebounds. The size was missed. Karl Towns had 13 rebounds. The size was missed. So that's why I'm not too upset about the loss, because I can see why they lost the game. They didn't have the size to really compete with Minnesota without Jared Allen and Dean Wade. Their rotations were very thin, and they just didn't have it. They had to play these weird small ball lineups. They had to play Rolo for like 16 minutes. It just wasn't happening. But the most important thing in this game was that Darius got going, right? Because we know guys like Kevin Love, guys like Cedi Osman, guys like Karis LeVert, we know they're going to be streaky guys. That's why they're role players, right? Your role players are usually up and down, streaky. That's why they're role players. If they played like they did on their good nights every night, they would be starters. They're role players because they're streaky. We know they're going to be streaky. We know that we're kind of relying on players to get back from injury to regulate that second unit. We know that. But what we were worried about was Darius. Like, okay, what's going on with him? Is this eye thing messing with his depth perception? Why is his passing and his shooting so bad right now? And he had a game that he needed to have. He really did. He got 51 points. And I think that's the most important thing. It would have been nice if they would have won. Obviously, it's always nice to win. But ultimately, it's just better that Darius was able to bounce back, because I think in the long run for the Cavs, that's what's important. And now the Cavs look ahead, and they got some tough games coming up, and they also have some winnable games coming up, right? Milwaukee, Charlotte, Miami, Atlanta. These are all tough opponents. Portland, Milwaukee, and then you get Detroit, then back at Toronto, then you play Philly. So you got a tough stretch coming up here for the rest of the month, right? I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these games are tough. You should beat Detroit. That's really the only one I'm looking at like that's a kind of a walk-in, because Portland's been a surprise this year. I think Charlotte's been a surprise this year. Miami has not, but they're Miami. And then Philly has not, but they're still Philly, and we ain't beat Philly like in a minute. But we haven't beat Philly on a consistent basis in a minute. So that's the stretch coming up for the Cavs. And I think it was vital that Darius had one of these games. I think he really did need it. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that this Darius Garland 51-point game is going to be a catalyst for him to really springboard his season and get back on track once Donovan Mitchell gets back, which it seems like he's day-to-day. He's not like having a serious injury or anything, which was kind of scary when he went down. So yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.